Lasso. And go to your 3 more. Any Tanga so Katsan Kyunjik some the car lady or is it Colin Chobjut and Rory, Somber Tamjawa Tatan, Tarjo Niakawa, Tavitel and Nimbolencer. Any chance to say good pay on the Sondrotari?
So, yeah, let's start. Geshe-la says there are only few people joining us today. But anyway, what we covered so far in our last class was the homage the author pays. And then we spoke about the judges and opinion, or
yeah. Then you chance of same the Lani or is in it in Gabre, chance of same the Richie, Telayena Niores.
Yeah, and we spoke about the benefits of bodhicitta and that there's a division into 2 types of bodhicitta also.
Also, Tani, Tatiring out some del Kasan Carle or is the chance of same the Laeva, Ni Chares, Ni Jayat. Yes, it's Chimbojavala, Penny, Goniman, Shichigaurity, Cattle.
And in the text, just to remind people for later, we're studying the text by Shantideva, A Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. We just started last time, so it's the second class today. And there's here an analogy given by Shantideva to illustrate what bodhicitta means or stands for.
Last of any chance of same. Go to Kasan Shevala, tell you a Mumbisem, the Mumba Chancho Kisem, Danjipa, Chancho Kisem, need to pay carry Bonija Resina, meet you, Tronker, Chiglopan, Dro Gos and be some some Tate Samla, Mumba Chancho Kisem, pay Yavare.
So the analogy or the example given in this text to illustrate the aspiring bodhicitta, we said there is the aspirational bodhicitta and then the engaged bodhicitta. And the aspirational bodhicitta is illustrated by the example that, if a person makes the wish to go into town or into a village, so just the mere wish to go somewhere.
Then all Chancho Mumbi same doing a Semcha Tamcha Kichet, the Sanji Kombon Jowie, Sambate Tamchu, Chanchum Jubi Sem Zedi Karazena, Ne Semcha Tamcha Kichet, the Sanji Kombon Jowie, Samba Sam Meisenberg, Jambala Sophie. Jambata Saturn Zopalas of Yamle Lajico, Repena Michik, the Trontier Lapandro, Drogo Sambata Mazet, Motatani, Garitani, Kamba Jamina, Mus and Droja, that you
And so, likewise, in terms of the aspiration bodhicitta, is the wish, the mere wish to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And then now, speaking about the engaged bodhicitta, that's when someone then actually, say, takes a car or takes a bus to go into town to reach that place they wish to go. And so engaged bodhicitta is then not just having the mere wish to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, but actually then working, for the benefit of others in terms of, practicing the 6 perfections and so forth.
Now, certainly, Chance of Sem at the Kasan Motrochi, and it is Yango, Chance of Sem the Motrochi, Sango, number need to Kasan, Leshatiri, Lesharo.
Yeah, so we already touched on, what bodhicitta actually means in our last class, and I would like to continue with that. And the 2 of you joining us today, you also were here last time, right?
That's certainly not so Chance of Sem at the top 10 tombo Tandi Nolizena. Yanta Yasarumochi, Yanta per Zopi Chanchum Dopi, the Patam Sondan, the curious Sem Labjayoritate, Lamna Mandam Namdordina, Chanchum Sem go Bupandra the Carrena, Sem Chantamchat, dignally Kyopi Sam Luchenji, Jantun, Jan Sem Chantamchat, dignally Kyopi Samba Chengire. No, Gubandra Taku Chavandrota, Tondata Siche Teresina, Sem Chantamchat, dignally Kyabata. So
the meaning of bodhicitta or bodhisattva practicing, accordingly, is a person who wishes and to actually works in order to alleviate the suffering of sentient beings.
Dingar the yon de yo Bahako Goni, Tilistio Palatazo, Dingar the Mepazo, Tavlam go Tomba Nitopishira to Chancho Semlas of Pinyavlin, the social yogo yore. Social Tilo John the yogo yore. Tavlan the song, social Niego or Mangapena, Puchilla Ike Lavala, so Ike Shiko and Ange, Semcha Nyomo Likavala, Tikap, the Soso Shiko.
Yeah. But so a bodhisattva then wishing to work or working for the benefit of others, in order for them to achieve happiness, which means to overcome all their afflictions and so forth. First of all, they themselves need to, know their respective means to do so.
So on Semcha Tamcha Dinner Kachopala, Tomar the Sosoya. Nyomo Batan, Shichi Japazia, Niore, Yomo be Japazia, the dinner yonke getere, Shichi Japazia, Nazo, Yoba Marav, Comcha Shichembo Shani, Sim Yachembozo Mutuateri, Samazo Tamlan the Shigore, Yomo be Japahakora, Nyodu Shidro, or Nyodu Shidro need to Mepazo, Tapche Gore, and Dotaduna.
And you see it, Nepal young.
Shidrian Mepazo, Nyoduan Mepamazona, Sangeto Mare.
So generally speaking, we speak of two kinds of obscurations. There are the afflictive obscurations, which hinder us to achieve liberation. And as a bodhisattva, we need to know the means to overcome these afflictive obscurations or afflictions. And then there are also the second type of affliction or defilements, is the cognitive obscurations. These are the ones that hinder us from achieving enlightenment. And again, a bodhisattva needs to know the means to overcome these, ignorance, the cognitive obscurations.
Also, te Chevala, te Nyamlin the Chevala, Chanchos and Nyamlin the Chevala, says Chipo, Chet Governor Kapori, in Chumachi, Kiwan Abchilla, Mandro Goat, and Nenga Makiwan Abchi, Yoko Ajanda Ocheni, and the Chancho Senyali Mach and a Kalikapore.
So, in order to engage in the practices of a bodhisattva, this is all based basically of accepting the fact that there are past and future lives. It's not just this life only. If there was only this life, then it would be difficult to establish the whole idea.
So tani kiwa ngap chingol kecha chiche sapson ta kiwa ngap chizea ta menana sangi kompondro zea ta kali kapore ta kiwa ngap chite yore ta mere zeondi ta tesan seru pata sochi na kiwa ngap chi ke melen se yore ke melen zea ko kiwa ngap chi mindu lawo yo mare yo me hako mindu lawo re zenyo.
Yeah, so if there were no past and future lives, the whole idea of achieving Buddhahood wouldn't really, be tenable, as it were. And of course, there is a lot of discussions, between Buddhists or scientists. I mean, scientists, for that matter, they don't accept, past and future lives, but only because they can't prove it. One cannot say that past and future lives do not exist.
Tanda kiwa ngap chata number that you are shajachinity sangi compound ton share yore la ta kiwa ngap che yon de nenga su chi danga so namshi zeat ya tinro gore namshi zeat tseruk pa share namshi zeat danga so nachu share namshi to tezendra yo mare.
And also, when we speak about past and future lives, and the whole idea of achieving, higher states and eventually Buddhahood, also very much, it's very, very much related with our minds. But then again, there's a big distinction between, what scientists assert, the mind is, and what, from the Buddhist point of view, what Buddhists assert what the mind is like.
So tani tseru pagchena ngaso shibaze deat lebag lekache lebag ta cheli ze gora nachu chen ngaso lebag cheli ndo lebag lekanda tandi chilmoche moze chegore ani tser nachu shena shibaze at lebal ketonda jewa yota ko leba mena yan lekache to ngaso mishin ro yikapsa leba mewala nachi chibo kiwa chimal mandro atindi keje shegore.
Yeah, so the scientists very much hold the notion that the mind is a function of the brain, whereas the Buddhists say, well, even if people are physically dead or have died, then it is the mind still remains, and the mind is that which continues on into a future life.
So tani yana yang tserupali yang tesan laba le karezi de amato Kalit Kaso Chick Kariche or is in Angaton Musa Kalitesa Chick, the Danangaso Namba knowledge in a Mitazo Lama Kerachimoto, Trondo Vicabla, Titam Jixiachiore, or Ticabla, Titam Jipicabla. That Serupag Takeche only meet the Lapa Leka, Tamjak Sarsha, Tron Sarshala, or the Coro, pombo to so juba ma cha tandi chini ni ma chonga to so tandi ja ja na so répond le gadin trapachu nani lo chichonga chil hai sai tandi nge lo ngus chonson
Lo chunga.
lo chu sa chu che sa me jo ta chi mu ko kandar lo chichonga nge le
Okay. So, and then, in Buddhism, we sometimes have or what happens sometimes that people pass away, they're clinically dead, and where the scientists would say, well, the brain has stopped functioning, the heart doesn't beat anymore, and there's no breathing anymore. So they would say that person has died, is not alive anymore. Whereas, it does occasionally happen, and it has happened, Geshe-la says, maybe around 10 years ago in their monastery in Jepung, where the former Ganden Chipa, the Ganden throne holder, High Lama, had passed away. Seemed to have passed away, seemed to have been clinically dead. However, the body didn't decompose. So there was a case where the scientists would have said, they went down to investigate. They said, well, this person he's dead, has died. But because for maybe 15 days or so, that previous Ganden throne holder would remain, the body would just remain fresh and not decompose. And that's, according to the Tibetan tradition, the sign that the person hasn't really died yet. So although they are clinically dead, the brain doesn't function anymore, there's still a subtle form of consciousness in the body, which then makes the body not decompose. There's a subtle form of consciousness still within the body, and that's referred to in Tibetan as the tukdam.
So, kaptadil ta konsan chokojar mochi musi ke tseri pat solta pinlang Japan la tenji genchi tukdam rejik den du kyoso tel kepache khandro shos ko la pat sam chondu mundu la pat sam ja yona te chonsare ta chonsa mare te ko le kyoso len kanji kyagore jemji tel che shos ne mus tan ni jima jemji che ondi ata koso ko tembe chia na na chonsar shas yana e pa pombol tena no ma chonin richitis ate kari yenzini khat
Yeah, and it was His Holiness, the Dalai Lama himself. He apparently sent some scientists really down, in that case, down south to the monastery to investigate the matter. And they, said or confirmed, that person that has died is clinically dead, that the brain doesn't function anymore. And then, there was this discussion how they explained, the fact that the person, remained, or the body of that person remained fresh without decomposing for so many days, 2 weeks or what. But they couldn't really give an explanation.
Well, so number Sangi Pagashina, Tangital, Titam Zigre, Shipa Chamuchi, you Zigre, Labata Sol Tumugo, Captati, Shipata Labata Sol Chikantu, Yo Mari, then Shipachi Yore, and it Kachini Palatani party sonani, Sendi Pombo, Kacha, Nitsemaria, Kiva Jambachi Lani, Roja Kareze, Nachu, and Shegore. No, Tatini Tutam Teli Sarvat around Kachinipa, around what Tutam Nimachujuna and recorded. The Nikachinipa, Gichochi Gamma, and Nikiva Chamare, Sari, put Sandal and change over Reservoir.
Anyway, so from the Buddhist point of view, in that case, it was the fact that there was still some subtle form of consciousness within the body, and then after these 2 weeks or what, then there was a point that eventually the consciousness really left the body. Die tak yoro lang sin. Die took down Shupit shoots up Jesu dene.
Oh, Jeje, that's what she
did.
Jeje, oh, Tangi Tayor.
Love me.
Oh, Lam.
Anyway, so I was just double checking. So what I've heard, Geshe-la confirmed that there are usually signs that come with it, signs that that show that the person has really died. Then there's, for example, blood coming out of their nose, and that shows that then even the subtlest form of consciousness has left the body, and then then one can be assured that the person really has died, and then the decomposing starts.
Sonza tesan serki na ya kiwa ngapchi marriage ra lapto yo mari kiwa ngapchi yona pa ngapchi kiwa yon de Tenri Lenin Jogo na Nachu Shia Tata Chireo, Naso Nachu Nyamlicha Manor Chireo. Kasikyo Napchon, Seripa, Mary's in Laptoyo Maro. Tati Takichi Maru, Kasikyo Napchetanya Sopa, Chuchiat, Hachanikechi Pachadiore.
So yeah, but in any case, the scientists can't deny, they can't say for sure there are no past and future lives. But so assuming there are past and future lives, then practicing the Dharma is really, really important.
So Chuchiat, send the Chipoza mine, but same Kiwata Kiwa Mombo the Samlotani. That's all the Kangayon, I think Kiwa Mombo Chikuleta Manju, send the Kangayon, Samlotangiore. Kiwa send the Leka Chetan Mukiwa Chuma Mombo, the Kangayon Kileni, Givatum Nadiki on Kilim Balatini, not choose their Koraja Tong, Dromja money to Tere. Not choose it.
Yeah, so what is accepted in Buddhism is that, we have been around for, such a long time, where in which we had so many lifetimes, in which we have created so much different forms of karma, and now in this life we experience all sorts of sufferings and problems, for example, due to negative karma that we have created in the past, and likewise due to the karma that we are creating now. We'll be, or we will have, respective results in forms of happiness and suffering, virtuous deeds leading to happiness and negative deeds leading to suffering in the future.
Last one, so Kia Napchela Karlagori, Kia Napchela Sopatinji, Dedic, Legium Retio Sonsang, so Chanchuk Simzea, the Gomia, the Hajan Kechimori, the Simchan Tamchak, Soma, which it Sanji Componja with Sambachi Saulo Goring, Page Jayon, Perna, Matsu Yankam the Soga Sunsan Dambicable, Sunsan Dinge, Yankam Mimon Sama, Robachi in Zegiore, then only since the top Sonako, Minjon Hanchimbuchin, and Mimon to sort of Lobchala, Joala, Loyo Mugo, Fridge, Zoandra, Mengon, Jonayan, Mayo Muguni, Fridge, Zoandra, Wani, Gengo to Solo, Geso Kan, Geportia, Peshatia, and Portia, Apoda, Gengo. What in the last of a shoe chet over it, since the corona that in your Marta, Yankam the Drigelatini, Chud the Sapesha, Yosatasoniya, the Mesatasol Paro, Narkio Yapochi Pecho Tantona, Yankam the Penshu Tokoyore, then now Jangato and Narkio Pecho Tani, Sanji compound the journey, Sim Jivi, Sim the Tap Kalapchat and Zambuling, Matama, Machi Tramtona, Zamaja de la Sopata, round the Rockets Egora, Shuchi Pendochemboyore.
Suzuki Semsua, Duba.
So Semder, Janga Semder, Tomala.
So, and then, coming back to the idea of a bodhisattva, the intention, is this is all about taming one's own mind and then teaching methods to others for them to be able to tame their own minds and thereby achieve happiness. And then Geshe-la gave an example of, for example, like a president of a country who has really a sharp mind and a wholesome attention. He would use money that's available for all sorts of purposes, establishing schools where there are no fees to be paid, having free medical treatments, or caring for the aged, the older people, or providing them with a pension. In that way, having this is just to illustrate a little bit the idea of a bodhisattva, having a wholesome intention and, applying means to benefit society.
Also, the Nikonsa Jango Chogno Chogo Kadina Sunguyore, Chancho Kusemzia, Rando Joalaya, Chancho Kusemres, Jando Joalaya, Chancho Kusemres, and near Nika Kudea Chopalaya, Chancho Kusem Gores, Kusem Yakares, Tartikudea Joalaya, Chancho Kusem Yakare Sunguyore.
And what His Holiness the Dalai Lama often says is, it's bodhicitta that not just establishes the happiness and welfare of others, but it also automatically benefits and provides ourselves with happiness and welfare. And also likewise bodhicitta will provide us with short-term, temporary benefit and also long-term benefit.
Lasso teni konsa chokko namji karasungore zena chancho sepa zeati Samya the Katina, Mi Jamba to the Kanyang Mato, Soso to Samuel Tangio Maritan, Juviata, Soso to Danjabuyores, Tanjasongudu, Tengaso Demba Roshun Tongutungaso, Consajarum Wichindaoina, Coronketa, Yondin Jamajayurita, Su Yonde Yona Men and Zalanco Tablam Chair, the Chancho Kasim Yamli Chevala Tenji, then it's Yarum Wichindrachina, Coronla Chena Masenda Kangesiat Savaninichi Omari, Japan John Senjinja. Ani in cor lonchiola sopa carriage chanina, coral cangio mari, then Zalan di Gonleon, Tan Zalan Jute, Keshat, Carlo Tomombo, no Latini, Mahaja Mombo, Semle Jute, Lapchamombo, Pentchamore.
And also to illustrate, that, by practicing bodhicitta, being their fathers, working for the welfare of others, we ourselves will be basically taken care of, we'll, achieve happiness and well-being ourselves. To illustrate that idea is that, when we imagine, think of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who, goes around teaching and giving all sorts of precious advice for other people, for example, he himself, he doesn't lack anything really. He has a, good name, as it were. He has no financial issues, everything is taken care of, and he has a great, amount of people supporting him and so forth. So that's the to illustrate that if you have a good motivation, like a bodhisattva, going out benefiting others, we will not lose out. We'll rather, benefit.
Also, the Ningatsu Namji Chanchuk Kasim Yamlin Jichena, Atsu Yamli Chesa Chanchuk Kasim Kesa, the same change theory, same chan the Langatsu Rixum Chia, Jaziachi, the Parmajia, the Ninjachi, or Rixum Chigore.
So now when we talk about benefiting others, we can think of that, basically there are three kinds of sentient beings. We have, there are those sentient beings we feel close to, and then we have those sentient beings we feel neutral towards, and then we have those we call our enemies or we are distant towards.
Also, Tino Ninzia, the Langato Jamseta, Ropan Rochego Samba, Tantiso, Chet, Tonda of Sama, Saulo, the Tetion Lavaring, Sonam, Jacori, Soso Gasa in Sonsa, Tel Lilavare, Parma, Telechena, Namjana Tendigo called Jamsendo Lego Marta, called Kangin Rava Saulotani, Akoro Dikin Dovata, Dingermando Pachim, but the Katina Kokangin all on the Ores, and also Asananda Soso Logion Genite Pasaulotana, the Soleon, Ninjetan, the Sole Laoyore.
So looking at those beings we feel close towards, for them it's very easy. It comes fairly easy to develop loving kindness and so forth. But then looking at those people we feel neutral towards, it's already a bit more difficult. However, seeing people we feel neutral towards, seeing them suffering, in a great difficult situation, then it's possible for it's doable, to have compassion for them.
Laso tani tin pa research ni ngaso saulo chi taung ding woni ngaso na bia chi chamse la so go mato sa go kare yur zegre na chu counter concept ta cha de on di da ru te cha yong gore.
And so among these three types of beings, it's towards the so-called enemies, or those whom we feel distant towards, to whom it is quite difficult for us to develop loving kindness.
So since Mambo Chick Shuchi in the net, so some of the Chamse Gombala Caliore, some Shrakalioma, Pantatic Diona, Soso Jaziata, Soso Magasat, New Chimato Yomar, Soso and cheated so Moshipa the Trigonal, Macasa the Trijam, Momishia the Trium, Nyono Chicanola, Samlo Yapoji Gom Topsona, Pachi Tamal to at the Chipare.
Can you
Jata Shitamombo Yomara? A coso new chili chamse Yabogom to Sona, Jambata Solila Wachar.
So, but when we think about it, among all the people that we know or we can be aware of, we can say that maybe generally the so-called enemies or those we feel distant towards are rather few. And if we, do our best to, develop some form of kindness or loving kindness towards them, then it will be very easy, to develop loving kindness towards all the others, we like and we feel close to, and even those neutral ones.
So so unchiga drag the chamse tantanji chini chambochena. Ta pasho the mudukya shuji na mishimangari chamboche, sani chamboche, nani chamboche, chamse the parshi koso ya jathama soso chopo rendroti, teni purun korle chopo mato yo mari, chopo mato mena kangi shu chondore. Koso.
Even if there's one person or some people, we really think of them as our enemies, but we can, again, transform our minds, do our best to develop, some form of loving kindness towards them. You do it today, we try again tomorrow, and then again, and eventually we might be able to kind of turn them all into our friends, and then which will diminish all the difficulties.
So Tandri Samlo Tayanga, so Galite Jamba, Suchi Chegore Mugli, Lawan, Savani Yomari, Carzeting, also Nieron Chadanze, the Kyo, Hombo, Terra Mombo, di Macomi on Resegliore, Akiwanga Chikilimbaja, the Manat, Delia, Nieron Chadakan, Lucomiondi, Ta Chadani Mepazoni, Jailani, Ligiri Samlo, the Tangonelli, Lawan Yomari, but so Chegore, Caligua, Chancho Sepi, Kyopaziat, Savachimboyat, Tandrishi, so Natsoya. That's among Mato, nothing go to Caligal at Tagore.
So, but this is not to say that it's very easy, right? So, it's not an easy thing to do, obviously. So, we have to work hard for it. And also, what makes it very hard that, now assuming we accept past and future lives, then we can say, we have been accustomed or habituated to feeling close to some people and distant towards others, which makes it quite difficult now in this life to, develop loving kindness towards them all. But even if we don't think about past and future lives and only look at this life, in the past we have had so many, occasions, and we have been habituated to this way of thinking. These are my friends or my relatives, my close ones, and those ones are those I don't like. So this strong habituation makes it quite difficult for us to, think along those lines. But but it is doable. You just have to work a bit hard for it.
Last Tani Makyonji Jachin in Drogo Yentani, Tanda Chancho Sem de la Mosim Danjixim Niki Noni, that Mosim Danjixim Nik Payon the Car Resina, Chancho Mombi Sem Zete, Mosim Zete the Kuro, Mosim Yopi Kavla, Woni Kasama Shia, the Dupanjoma, Teki Yoma, Shu, Pen Yore, Tayan, Draw, Kutinji, Mombi Sem Maybe Kavla, Pen Yomar Zewore.
Alors, dites pas, mais pas ça, donc.
Kasama Sheti, Chancho Sem the Pen, the Dupanjombala, Chansom Pen Chembore, Gavaj Palayan, Chancho Se Pen Chembore Zewora, but that Chancho Sem, Mombi Sem Zia, the Koro K. David Kavla, Dupanjoatan, Deki Yoma, Pen on the Yore, Koron, not so Yendro, could they Kavla, tell you Marilla.
So then, coming back to the benefits of bodhicitta, so we touched on the inspirational bodhicitta, and it is said that it's very beneficial in terms of purifying negativities, creating virtue, and thereby achieving a sense of happiness and well-being. But it is said that only at the times that this so-called aspirational bodhicitta is being generated, that this is working that way. When we don't give rise to this aspiration bodhicitta, then it doesn't have that effect of purifying negativities and creating virtue.
So Tani John Dandan Jixem Zediatelo, Tedan Dragumaris, Jixem Zediat, the country Chongo origin, a Tanti Lukiopa, Loba Mazatini zonting, also Chancho Sepi Domba Zeat, Chancho Sepi Domba Zeat, Topi Sem Chiango, Responsa, Co Teni Zonte, Jixem the Kenny Zonte. Not so Jonchan Yandic Tangaso Ya Lonare, Ma Denare, Jonare, Nikunare, Katina, Chancho Musi Yonare, Menare, Jigdum Zeatike Zonte, and if so, Yamachat and Pendro or Tenizonte.
So, and then, coming to the engaged bodhicitta, that's where, as mentioned before, we actually engage in the so-called bodhisattva's activities. And it's often, that, people take the so-called bodhisattva vow, where we actually formally make that promise, to practice accordingly. And it is said that the engaged bodhicitta always, works, as it were, whether we are consciously thinking along those lines, or whether we sleep, when we go somewhere, when we eat, whatnot, during any time, it has these benefits, and the benefits will rather only increase and get more and more.
Retendi tamatal teni zonter nyel lokam parmi quelqu'un sonam shi gemchat par tamaji nam kam nyam barab ta chons ine sondo teni zonteze di chanchum jupi sem ta chon ani zonteze ta ni kude na yan res ani chik samba lolo ndo chini lolo ede de ares sonum ke shik te gemchapa chon maze nam ka da nyamba nam ka ze ti shuja nam ka da nyamba barab ta chongore ine son yore anda kita cik imbe.
Yeah.
Asa sholo kadri.
Yeah.
Rasari.
I don't find the turned up young kids on
Turned up that teni zonte ze chancho jiksem topa teni zonte. Ta ni kunare.
Yeah.
Ani namyan rawoche lolo chini denare. Karchena sonum zeati gemche pa joma ze namka kawata shu mombo per.
Yeah, okay, now I found the verse. Sorry, I didn't find it right away. So it's just confirming what Geshe-la says just now. It says that, and for he who has perfectly seized his mind with a thought never to turn away from totally liberating the infinite forms of life, from that time hence, even while asleep or unconcerned, a force of merit equal to the sky will perpetually ensue.
This one. No, Tendritani. Tendrigo Johnshaw Monsem, Donjixim, Nicola Pain, Yopat, Ta Pashiona, Yastichimbojavala, Long Pont, Sayos, Sangi Corongo son Yoris, Tesson at the Caris, Lazangijipindola, Mamozia, the Zenata Timen, but to teaching Lia, Yamli Chevichetala, Johnshaw Sang Pan Shu Chimboyos in Sonjaris.
And then next comes a verse in the text, where Shantideva quotes from a sutra that a teaching that the Buddha gave, and this is about the sutra requested by Subahu, where it says that the Buddha also talked about bodhicitta to those of the Hinayana or Theravada practitioners, those achieving for or aspiring for liberation for themselves, for their own sake. And the reason why that the Buddha taught about bodhicitta to them as well is to basically inspire them to go further, to want to aspire for full enlightenment.
Tanda Sangi Longan la son Yovama, so Jupa Saulotana and Pain Chimbo in Batahako, country cherries in a pen and also a Michik Mutusog Nata, Wonata, our Tezi Senayon. Gesa Chimbochina Semcha Tamcha Kanga Sedi Samna, Gesa Chimboyoba, some Shemago Aris, it be Samoton.
Do you still hear? I think the Shisum.
The song.
Young Shis.